You're listening to.
You are listening to.
You're listening.
Yo, what up, bitches? You're listening to Hey Poopy Podcast. Get your shit on.
Hey Poopy, how you doing? Hey Poopy, how you doing?
I'm just, trying to find a place with like-minded people to talk about like-minded things about me, about poop and stuff.
Hey Poopy, how you doing? Hey Poopy, how you doing?
Oh man, what's this right here? Is this a podcast about poop?
And now, the Hey Poopy Podcast with Dave and Ellen.
I love our theme song.
Yay!
Welcome back, everybody. We're here live on Dump Day.
This is the Hey Poopy Podcast with
Dave
and Ellen, and this is episode 64, but it'll always be number 2 to us.
And we have an amazing special guest all the way from England, Stefan Gates.
Yeah.
Hey!
Nobody could see, but I did a book report on his book a couple episodes ago, and then I was like, let me just cold email him and see if he'd be interested in coming on, because this is like one of the best books I've ever read about farts. I'm calling it my fart Bible now.
And the name of the book is Fartology, so go out and get it. It's available everywhere, so and it's a great book.
It was the most informative read I've ever had in my life.
Ellen had copious notes.
Has it helped you in your life, I wonder?
It did. It helped a lot. I've learned so much about it. I always thought that I, as a woman, had stinkier farts, and because of your book, I now know that.
Yeah.
There's proof. There's scientific proof.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a slim bit of scientific proof, but it's proof nonetheless.
Exactly. I'll take proof. I like a little bit of proof in my life.
Yeah, exactly. So you two are clearly bonkers. I love that.
We love everything farts.
We are photographers by trade. Dave also does graphic design, and then I started a secret Facebook page like 3-4 years ago for my friends to talk about their poop, and then Dave about 2 years ago, he came to me and was like, hey, you want to do a podcast about poop? And I was like, yes, let's do it.
And the rest is history.
And now it's snowballed into this big old shit show.
Literally. Well, we're going to do our check-ins, but we're going to get into Stefan shortly. But Ellen, you when we talked earlier before the show, you mentioned you had an epic check-in.
No, we always check in with our guests first. That would be rude.
I am so sorry. This whole quarantine thing has just completely thrown my whole routine off.
Down.
It is. It has. So I do apologize. Yes, you're our guest. Our guest should go first.
So, Stefan, how have your poops been recently?
Good, actually. A little bit smelly. But I see that as a positive thing rather than a negative thing. Regular. You see, now I did a fair bit of research in writing the book on how often people go to the toilet. And it turns out that I go to the toilet way more than most people do. I'm like a 4 or 5 poos a day.
Oh, wow.
Reading your book, I realized the same.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Most people are 1 or 2, which I find. You guys are missing out if you're only knocking out 1 or 2 a day. But it's my win.
According to your book, I feel like even women are doing less than 1 a day, which is even scarier.
Some are, yeah. How about you, Ellen?
I do like 2 a day because I take psyllium husk and all this other great stuff to keep it regular.
Yeah. Dave, what about you?
It depends, but I usually go like 2 to 3 on average. I would say, usually in the morning.
I think we're all quite high then, really.
Yeah, I'm not one of these people that just can like not go to the bathroom for like a full day. If I don't go to the bathroom, it's I feel awful.
Yeah,
so I really need to go.
Absolutely. And we have something in the UK called the Bristol Stool Scale, which is a way of...
we talk about it all the time.
Ah, fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's like our gold chart.
My current one, where's my Bristol Stool Scale gone? I'm currently sort of in the middle, really, of the Bristol Stool Scale.
Oh, nice.
Which I guess is a good way of defining how it all works, really. Yeah, I'm type 3, like a sausage, but with cracks in the surface.
Okay, that's pretty healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ellen usually drops like the number 4 is like the gold standard, as she calls it.
And they're huge.
Oh.
Yeah, massive, absolutely massive. I'm more of the
Bowl breakers.
yes. I'm more in the 5 range, I would say. Mine's a little bit
very
looser,
cute, yeah.
but
Yeah.
the 4 does creep in there every once in a while.
Yeah, we say that
it's
Dave
pretty
is
good.
loose in the caboose.
I am loose in the caboose.
How about wind? Have you got a good head of steam going up at the moment?
Well, this is okay. Can we go into my check-in?
Sure, go into your check-in.
Dave and I months ago made an appointment for another podcast to do this test of these internal deodorant pills. I don't know if you've heard of them, but there's 2 different brands, and one of them makes your farts smell like roses. So before quarantine, I bought all these Jerusalem chokes, the farty choke. And so since now that we're stuck in quarantine, I want to eat them and not waste them. So I had a bunch last night and I was farting like crazy all through the night, blasting off. And I know from your book, you have an entire chapter just on the sun choke, the Jerusalem choke, and they are the fartiest food ever.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. So, but did the smell change?
I didn't notice a big smell change, but I've literally eaten sun chokes 4 times in the past week. And the first time I tried the pill, I tried to keep smelling my farts to be like, is it, and it didn't seem very like rosy or like nice. But the second time I ate the sun chokes, the farts were so poisonous. Like they were just like peeling the paint off the wall. They were so hot. And I was like, oh, maybe these did help a little. Like it went from like if the worst smelling fart in the world is a 10, my farts were totally a 9. And it probably went down to like 5, you know? So, yes, I do think this internal deodorant helps, but it doesn't completely make it, void of smell.
Interesting.
And thank God for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife won't allow me to serve her Jerusalem artichokes anymore. They're literally banned. She won't touch them. I keep trying to slip them in amongst the potatoes, but
They're so delicious.
Hates them now.
I
Yeah,
love it.
exactly. That's the problem.
I've never tried them
That
yet.
deliciousness is actually the problem. It's that inulin is the substance, and you can taste it, but you just simply can't metabolize it properly. And that's exactly the reason why the farts brew so much.
Yeah.
Because your gut microbiome just goes, whoa, party time. That's beautiful.
But yeah, when we booked onto this other podcast to try out these pills, surprisingly, we weren't doing this on our own podcast. The guy was like, how are we going to know that we're going to fart? And I was like, have you heard of sun chokes? They're called the farty choke. And this is even before I read your book. And I was like, I knew this is one of the most that and cabbage are some of the most gassiest foods you can eat. So why not just eat a bunch of gassy foods and try to figure it out? So yes. After quarantine, we're going to have to try it out in person again.
Yeah. That's our next little...
Exactly. It's a bit unfair on people at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. We're doing some early preliminary research right now, but when we get together, that'll be a new segment.
Yeah. The only people smelling my farts are my dog and my boyfriend, so...
Oh.
And I fed my boyfriend some sun chokes last week, and he was like, I never want to eat those again. I could not sleep. I kept myself up farting the whole time.
Oh, my God.
I love that.
Epic.
Yeah. But I didn't poop yet today because it's 11 in the morning for us, where it's 4 in the UK, and I'm on what I call quarantine jet lag, where we're going to bed at 3 in the morning and waking up super late. So.
And what's keeping you up late? Are you watching the TV? Are you writing? Are you making music?
It's mostly my boyfriend's on that schedule because he likes playing video games and stuff. So yeah, I am doing some work and drinking wine and doing all that fun stuff. I'm just like, well, I have nowhere to go tomorrow, so why do I have to go to bed early? Like, so I literally have just shifted my entire time zone.
Nice.
I'm like in LA.
Being in quarantine means that you can, you have space in your life to take on different projects. So one project, obviously, that we can do now that we're all stuck inside is record our own farts to find out, can you change the sound of them? Can you play with them differently? So here's a few of my favorite ones. And you can just use a phone for this. I've been using voice memo for this. So let's play this one here. Put the ringer on. This is one I'm particularly proud of. And it's a real fart. This isn't a made-up one with me making the noise in my elbow. Here we go. Well, that was a bit quiet. Let's see if I can turn that. Here we go.
Whoa!
Pretty good, huh?
Nice.
I'm pretty proud of that one.
Yeah.
And here we got one that I've called a squeaker. That's good, huh?
That's a good one. I like the sort of pitch change at the end there.
What were you eating to produce such farts?
Oh my God, there's so many in there.
We're just so many. It's just part of my daily diet, really, to find out what's going to work best. Here we go. I don't know what this one is. Let's try this one. I started trying to work out the time of day and the what I'd eaten, 24 hours before, and I just gave up because it was more fun just trying to work out what the sound was. It was good.
Well,
what is
so are you loud or?
What's the most successful food you've been eating to make you fart that way?
I would say brassicas. Roasted onions for me are really good. Roasted onions, cabbage. Jerusalem artichokes are huge, but as I say, they get kicked out of the fridge if my wife can't find. But then if you want that really, really sort of cat poo, that proteiny stench, then a good steak. If you combine it with all those brassicas like cabbage and Brussels sprouts and things like that, but you have some meat as well, then you get the volume, but you get that really stinky, meaty smell as well. So everyone's a winner.
Since you're a published author, and you might get since you've been recording your farts, I think this book actually might be something, you should check out during this whole quarantine thing. It was gifted to us by a super fan of ours, Rose Martin, and it's a book about lepetamine. It just kind of like reminded me when you were talking about recording your own farts. I think you'd really, really enjoy this book, lepetamine.
Yeah, he's really good. There's a modern version of Pétomard called an English version called Mr. Methane.
Oh yes,
and I interviewed him for my book. He's brilliant.
Oh, did you meet him in person?
No, I just talked to him on the phone a few times.
Oh, okay.
Still, that's
he's
amazing.
He was trying to explain how he does it, and he said he's not entirely sure. He just sort of makes this sort of drawing up sensation from his diaphragm, and he manages to draw in lots of air through his bum.
Yeah.
And it's just genius. And he was very famous for a while. He appeared in lots of nightclubs and did the rounds here in the UK. He flew around the world occasionally. I think he went to the States and did a few radio shows.
He was on the Howard Stern show. He was
that's right.
That's what I'd heard him there.
Yeah, he's now sort of trying to sort of feel his way through the intellectual side of farting, and he does show his frustration, saying, you go to a nightclub, but all people really want to do is they want to hear you fart, and once they've heard you fart, that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. I think he might have to do a story of his life. I think he started out as a train driver, I think. And I think Pétomard, didn't he end as a baker?
Yeah. He started out as a baker, and then he went into the whole fart business. And then he wound up just becoming a baker after the war, I believe. So, yeah.
Sort of quite retired, with him and his flatulent memories.
Completely. I mean, I'm sure he was doing that for friends and family after the fact, but yeah, he ended.
He would.
You can't just sort of quit.
Granddad.
You can't retire that.
Exactly.
It's a gift.
And Dave, what about you? How have your poops been?
My poops have been fine. Like I said,
Did you
pooped
poop
today.
this morning?
Pooped this morning. It was a nice little 5. Nothing special to write home about. But I've been using though. I've been checking out different like sprays to mask the odor, or like we have like a couple different things that we use here. But I just recently bought a little pouch of Palo Santo, and I burned a little of that in the It's like a sort of I can show you a little bit. People
It's
at home
like a
can't see
wood.
this. Yeah, it's like a little wood piece. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, so it just has like a little bit, like the wood's treated with this sort of like scent, and it's fantastic for like odors or just like cleansing the air. And I've been using a little bit of that when I go to the bathroom, and it's fantastic. You walk in, no smell. I love it. My wife loves it too. So
The trouble is, we've got a few of those things, and I always think that if you spray those afterwards, what you get is the mingling of your poo smell and the scent, and it just makes it sort of worse.
I agree.
But a bit acrid.
There's nothing that beats ass, but I gotta admit that the Palo Santo has been fantastic. I don't detect any odor from the poop. It's just the woody smell. I mean, it's fantastic so far.
Well, maybe because it's like that fire thing, the way matches seem to work the best.
I mean, it's got a sort of sweet scent to it, but it's been working great so far. So I'm just going to keep going with it until something changes in my diet, apparently. Until something stronger comes along.
So let's go into who Stefan is. And
tell us
what you do. And besides this fantastic book, Fartology, you've written a bunch of other books, and you have a YouTube channel.
You're a big TV personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do lots of different things. They're all related to sort of food and science, really. So I've got a TV series that's on in the UK at the moment. In fact, the next episode is tomorrow night here in the UK on a channel called Channel 5. But most of what I do really is looking at food and science, and it's about, and the reason for combining the two is because food is a brilliant way of eating science, really, and so many things that I talk about when I talk about science are edible. So we talk about edible chemical reactions. All cooking is chemistry anyway, and food is a brilliant way of getting people to understand relatively complex science. And science is a brilliant way of getting people to understand and to get fascinated by food. And the more fascinated you are by food, the better you eat and the more healthier you are. So it's like a two-way street, really. I use food to get people to bring science into the reality of their lives, because it makes it really kind of immediate. If you're talking about acid-base reactions, but you're showing somebody some cabbage juice changing color when you add some lemon to it, then it's something that they can then drink, and they feel that it's part of their lives, which is just a lot better than telling people what it is. Whereas if you can get them not just to show them, but to get them to experience that and to play with sensory perception and things like that, then the science sort of goes down that much more easily. And so I've always been looking for tools that make science fun and funny and appropriate to people's lives. And so a friend of mine and I have got
attainable.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's because food is attainable.
Yeah, and you eat it every day, and you cook it, and when you cook it, there's physics going on and chemistry going on, and the moment you eat it, the biology kicks in, and all the biochemistry of your poo and your farts and things like that. And my friend Andrea Sella, who's a chemist, and I were just sort of thinking of what else we could do to make people just almost be shocked by how interesting the science and food combination can be. We just came up with the idea of Fartology one day, and we did a live stage show, and it was so funny doing this show that I then thought, okay, well, I've got to take this further, and I just kept on researching, and eventually my publisher said, why don't we do a book about Fartology? And it's just such a lot of fun. But it's all about using something that's a little bit shocking, a bit cheeky, something that you're secretly fascinated by, but nobody really talks about.
Oh, exactly.
And then bring that in, and using that to explain science, really. And that's really what I do. I do lots of live stage shows. I write books. I'm writing 3 new books at the moment. I haven't done very well yet today. I've only written 2.5 pages out of a 300-page book.
Oh, well.
But it's getting there. So I'm doing 3 books, and it's sort of following on from Fartology, actually. So one's called Catology, one's called Dogology, which is the sort of the weird science of cats and dogs. And then there's another one called Rude Science, which is the science of vomit and pus and sweat, tears and zits and and all the things that are all fascinated by, a bit like poo and fart, but nobody really talks about.
Well,
and so how did you get into all this? So you have a science background? Like what's your background?
Yeah, I've got a background in TV. So I was a TV producer for a long time. I worked in films and drama, on the production side of things, working as an assistant director and things like that. And it was never really sort of creative enough for me. So, but I've always been obsessed with food, and I never really thought that it was part of my working life. But one day I just started writing. I started writing a food book, but I wanted it to be. I was so bored with all the food writing that I'd been reading, so I thought I'd write the anti-food book. Not against food, but against the concept of traditional food writing. So the first recipe in the book was how to cook your child's guinea pig and serve it up to them at the table. And so it was kind of the anti-recipe, but it was a game playing, really. It was about sort of, food is about perception and about reactions and emotions and things like that, as well as just being about flavor and taste. And I wrote this piece, and it just made me laugh. And then I just carried on writing it, and it wasn't really written for anyone in particular, until finally we got a call from a new BBC production that was being made, and they were just screen testing kind of everybody in London to see if they'd be any good. And I went along and had the world's most disastrous screen test where everything went wrong. And I kind of said all the wrong things. And they told you to bring along your favorite food, something that you can talk about. And most people would bring along, caviar or fine ham or their mother's, chicken soup that they really cared about. And I brought along a pack of something called What's It, which are the British version of Cheetos. And I was talking about the science of flavor enhancers and MSG and how they work and how they're actually related to Parmesan and things like that. Anyway, it was a disastrous screen test. And of course, I got the job. And so I kickstarted. I left my work as a TV producer because I was a bit rubbish at it, really. I wasn't really into it, although I've been doing it for years. And I became I started doing TV things, and then started writing books, and then I just got obsessed with doing live stage shows. So again, live stage shows about food in the UK used to be so boring. You'd watch somebody making a chopped salad, or watch them boiling something, and you'd sit there going, "What? Why are people interested by this?" And so I started doing things like, sandwiches that you have to sit on to cook them. How to smoke salmon in a chocolate tin. Explosions and rockets that you can make using food and things like that. And I just discovered more and more things where if you weren't so bound into making food so obsessed with the taste and the flavor, you could discover so many other things using food as the vehicle for it. And that's how I started off, really.
That's amazing. I mean, your YouTube channel is like, it's such a fun adventure to go through. I mean, all the experiments. I imagine some of these things are in your kitchen with your family or friends you bring in or guests. But I loved it. I was checking it out. It was it's a fun thing. How to catch your farts in a jar in a bath.
Yeah.
I saw that episode.
Which I talked about that my brother used to do that because he was younger than me, and he would get out of school before me, and he would do it in Tupperware. And then I'd sit down on the couch, and he'd open up the Tupperware in my face, and I could smell his farts. So, like, your way of doing it in the bathtub seems like very efficient, but it was done just in Tupperware, which was even funnier.
You all of that gas, but again, it's actually about physics. It's about Archimedean principles the displacement of water and
Right.
things like that. So that's my excuse for getting away with absolute murder, is by saying, I'm fine.
It's
fine,
genius,
fine.
though. I think it's a great. I mean, the show's like it's fantastic, and obviously the book.
It is.
One quick thing though, when you mentioned, I think it was in your book, about how people fart 1.5 liters a day or something like that, which we don't have the metric system here in this country for some dumbass reason. But so that's 3.2 pints of gas that we're like. That's, I mean, I guess that's more for men, and women have a little bit less. But I just thought that was so funny. Imagine like a bar that was just lined up with pint glasses full of farts. It's just so.
And the thing is, a lot of them come out when you're asleep. A lot of them come out when you're doing a poo. So
Yeah.
it's not something you have a lot of control over. But yeah, I've always loved the idea of quantifying things that you don't really want to quantify.
Exactly.
You don't
Exactly.
want to. It's a bit like the Bristol stool scale. You're something that's so extraordinary and biological, and suddenly you're putting it onto a scale. Like, I love that leap of consciousness from one concept to another.
No,
And
it's-
kind of jarring and yet wonderful.
Yeah, the one thing in your book that I feel like you touched on was farts come from actually swallowing air, which I assume also it's a lot of it is carbonated stuff. But you didn't touch on the actual phenomenon that is beer fart. I feel like beer farts there's a different level than just doing like a soda fart, like beer farts are just, is it the yeast, is it like what is in it that just gives people that, like, men have the most rancid beer farts ever.
Especially if you drink a lot of Guinness. And then
Yes.
and again it's about it's all about sugars that your gut flora feed on, but also because these things are all carbonated, then you get the carbon dioxide adds to the volume of your farts. And so as well as brewing the smell, you've got that extra volume that can take the smell around the room as well. And so, yeah, I mean, there's some studies done in Australia about beer and farts, and it seems to make men's farts smellier, but it doesn't have any effect on women's farts, which is bizarre. I mean, we have very different gut flora between men and women.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, our gut flora will have a different consistency. So I guess that's part of the reason. What's really interesting, though, is that this is an area of research that's just exploding at the moment. There's so much that we don't know that is now being discovered, and so I think you could probably write a book, the Fartology book, all over again in 2 or 3 years' time with all of the new data that's come to light.
Fantastic.
Yeah, there's two things I want to say. Thank you for using the word exploding, because that's literally what they are. And but in your book, you were talking about fecal transplants and how you seem very against them. But it looks like, and your book was written in 2018, if I'm not correct, a couple years ago. But we're we're trying to talk to somebody who's done a fecal transplant. And there's this woman we know who's actually, she has all these issues and been doing it to the point where she's writing a book about it. And so, yes, I did like that you put in your book, not do it at home. Nobody should be doing fecal transplants
Exactly.
at home. But we talked to so many doctors about, like, it seems like there might be something good happening in that world. And would that be a chapter that you might revise if you ever did a different edition of this book?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's an absolutely fascinating area. And again, the views about it are changing all the time. I think, for as far as I can tell from the literature that I read about it, it's still a little bit difficult to tell whether or not a transplant is going to be positive or negative to a particular person. So until that's a little bit clearer, which is, and to get that far, we have to understand the gut biome so much more. And there are lots of different projects, certainly in progress in the UK, where people are trying to input the change in their gut biome in relation to what they've eaten, which of course is really difficult to tell. Doing all of these nutritional studies is a nightmare, because you have to do them over a long period of time. You have to track exactly what people are eating. Other inputs, if you eat something else or drink something else, may affect the outcome of that. And so it's so complex to try and understand what effect any particular thing will have on your gut biome. So that's why I'm very wary about it. But I know that a lot of people seem to be very evangelical about it, which is also slightly worrying when anybody's evangelical about a medical procedure. But yes, as soon as we understand it a lot more, then it might help people enormously. I know that people are desperate for changes, especially with things like irritable bowel syndrome and Crohn's disease.
Yeah.
If any of these can be fixed using whatever it could be, whether it's fecal transplants or anything, then that would be just life-changing for so many people. I just feel we don't really know for sure yet what the effects are of it. So yeah.
I've talked about it a lot on the podcast that I was diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease almost now 2 years ago, and I was on 9 months of antibiotics from it. And within that 9 months of being on so many different antibiotics to get it under control, because I had neurological issues and everything, I actually lost my farts. I stopped farting. Yeah. And and it was the craziest thing. Like, my diet didn't really change besides being gluten-free. And then all the supplements and the antibiotics, of course, was different inside of me. And I was taking probiotics to help. But I literally, it was like, I've always been the fartiest human I've ever known. Like, even my parents said as a baby, I was just one farty child. And then for a whole year, I lost my farts. It was the craziest thing. And so when I got them back after... Yeah, it was crazy. So yeah, everybody's gut is like, it can be different from anything.
It's like a snowflake.
Yeah, and I presume that your gastroenterologist said that the gut flora, all the bacteria that were in your gut, had basically been wiped out by the antibiotics, and that you had to repopulate it. Is that what happened? Yeah,
that's basically, because I was on for 5 months straight Zithromax and penicillin for 5 months. Where most people only do that for like a week at a time. So my gut was like just destroyed. But yeah, it was pretty much just wiped clean and start over again.
Yeah. And how long did it take for it to get back to normal?
For me, I started farting at least again a year later.
Wow. That just explains, how complex it can be and what you can do to your system, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To kickstart yourself with a fecal transplant.
But then that's when I did all that and wiped my system clean, that's where I've been making these perfect Bristol 4s that are they're between 8 and 12 inches long, and I call them the no push, no wipe. They just fall out of me. So my gut is really it's a healthy place.
I know. Ellen has these epic shits. It's kind of crazy.
I've never taken a picture of them, but
Please
someday
don't.
I will, and people will be like, "Oh my God, she was right."
There's a whole Instagram feed right there.
Oh yeah, pretty much. We have a guest on.
Surprised what comes out of me.
We had a guest on that takes pictures of his poop, and he makes album covers out of them. and
he calls it the greatest shits
with a Z. It's hilarious. They're really funny. He's got a good sense of humor about it.
One other question from the book that I have to ask you, because I'm beyond jealous. You rode the fart bus that goes from Bristol.
Oh, yes. We did.
I need to know more about this. Dave and I read an article about it because we always do a news segment at the end of each podcast, and we read it, and I was like, we have to go. So tell me, how was the ride? How long was it? Just details.
So the Fart Bus is a project that's been run down in the west of England, a place called Bristol, and it's a project where they capture methane from food waste and sewage at a water treatment plant, and they use the methane partly to run the entire sewage plant, which is an absolutely vast organization there. But also they decided as a proof of concept to capture the methane and to use it to power a bus, which made journeys around that area of a city called Bristol. And the bus is just like a normal bus. It was, and it sort of felt as though it was going to be something really extraordinary and really special. But you get on it, it's a grumpy bus driver, just like any other grumpy bus driver. It doesn't smell of anything other than a bus. It's got a big a methane tank on the top of it, which contains all the methane. It doesn't do more than, I can't remember how far it does, maybe 100 miles at a time.
It's really it's kind of short. I remember that from the news story.
Tank of diesel.
Yeah, I remember the story from that.
But the really sweet thing is that on the side of it, on the outside of it, below, right next to each seat, is painted a toilet with a cartoon figure sitting on the toilet. So you're inside the bus, sitting there, and outside you're pitched on top of a toilet, which is great. Whether or not all the good citizens of Bristol actually enjoy that experience, the idea of being caught sitting on the loo or not, I don't know. But it's a brilliant idea. And they also they converted a Volkswagen Beetle to be run on methane as well.
Oh wow!
And they call that the fart bug. And that's great. I drove that around as well. It's awesome. And in the boot of it, in the trunk, are two big canisters that the methane sits in, and it goes like shit off a shovel.
I mean, that's fantastic. I just wish we had something like that here, especially in New York City. It's like it makes no sense.
Be like the future of like everybody. Like our toilets should be going straight into like making gas for our home. Like it just seems like the most practical thing.
Yeah. And to be able to capture it is fantastic as well. It takes a lot of engineering, but so the idea about the fart bus and the bug is that they're a sort of proof of concept. They put quite a bit of money into it just to show that you can do these things and to help. They've got lots of different regeneration projects and eco projects that are using different forms of energy. So I think it's a brilliant idea.
Oh, I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, we love that story. But I'm glad we get to talk to someone who actually rode on the bus and the fart bug.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Oh, my God.
Yeah, you wrote my Bible about farts, and you made me jealous that you rode on the bus. So, yeah, it's like talking to a rock star here about farts.
Yeah.
Fart star.
Yeah,
fart star. Yes.
Oh, Dave, I see a T-shirt coming out of that one.
Yeah. I'm going to sketch it up right now.
So tell us, let's go into our normal questions. Tell us what kind of toilet paper you use, and do you like over versus under when you hang it on the roll?
Absolutely over. I think under. If you're an under, then you're absolutely bonkers. I just don't understand.
I'm an under.
I go into other people's toilets and will turn their toilet paper around if it's the wrong way around.
Ellen does that too. It's like.
And in terms of the brand, we've got a very posh supermarket here in the UK called Waitrose. It's not quite Harrods, but it's a cut above the rest. So we definitely treat our bottoms to a higher class of toilet paper.
Oh,
Is it soft? Is it like described, since we don't know that brand here?
It's kind of. Ooh. I'm trying to find out. I've got some here. There was some here, but no. Oh, here we are. There we go. Soft but not indulgent, I would say. It's got good wiping capability. It definitely carries the stool very well. I'm quite pleased with it. It's obviously in high demand in the UK at the moment because everyone's gone bonkers and is buying loo roll-up, which is bizarre because it's all here. We produce it all in the UK. It's not going to stop produce.
I still haven't heard exactly why people decided to hoard toilet paper. Like, what? Yeah. Like, I've heard people start to bring up the conversation on even the news or like comedy or whatever, but nobody knows where that hoarding started. Like, of all the things.
Yeah, I think it's an indication of how stupid the human race is. I think there must have been somebody somewhere, maybe, I think it's Australia, actually, a photo of somebody going, what if the loo roll runs out? What could possibly be worse than that? And so I think that spread around the world and everyone caught the bug.
Well, here on Hey Poopy Podcast, we believe in bidets, and we have these great Snap-on bidets now that are so inexpensive. So everybody needs to get a bidet and stop wasting so much paper, and then just wash your butthole instead of wiping it.
A large proportion of the population of the world does that already, don't they? We need to get back into it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, and if you don't want to get a bidet, then you can get a little travel bidet. It's like a little tiny, like, portable. They're fantastic.
If you go to Japan, the first time I went to Japan, you stay in a hotel and you go into the bathroom in your room, and you're faced with this toilet which is so complicated. And to start off with, you kind of think, no, I'm not getting involved in that. And then after a little while, you start thinking, oh, that could be quite fun. And by the end of your trip to Japan, 2 weeks into it, you are hooked on those mechanical toilets. Great.
Totally spoiled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
That's like my goal in life. I want to have that in my home. Like, no joke. Those things are like the luxury car of toilets.
Exactly. But I think you need a Japanese plumber to put it in for you, because, combining water and electricity.
Oh, yeah.
Don't buy an English plumber. Let's down. If they're going down there with water and electricity, I want somebody who really knows what they're doing.
Oh yeah, completely.
Exactly.
I'm with you on that one.
And what's your first memory as a child with poops and farts? Have you always been into it, or is it like a newer thing?
Yeah, I think that my sister used to fart into a pillow and then put the pillow on my head. So that was fun for her.
Is she older?
Yeah, a couple of years old. And
Sounds like an older sibling thing.
That is hilarious.
Oh, yeah. So mean. And then from then, childhood of spent sort of trapping my farts under a duvet in the full Dutch oven. Which is has always been good. Yeah, I've always been quite proud of my farts, to be honest.
Nice. Be proud.
Yeah, exactly. Loud and proud.
Loud and proud.
What is your best cure for diarrhea or constipation in your professional opinion?
I haven't really ever used anything other than let it all out and drink some salt. I know that we have something called Imodium here in the UK. I don't think I've ever used it. It's just been a case of get that stuff out.
Yeah.
And hope for the best.
Yeah.
So I'm no help on that whatsoever.
Our favorite question: if you have to go really, really badly, Bristol 7, it's coming out, and there's no toilet in sight. Do you go somewhere on the floor, or do you go in your pants?
Well, I'm trying to think if I've ever been in that situation. The one thing I do know...
You've never pooped your pants?
Oh, I'm sure I have, but not in my memory. That's the trouble. But the one thing I do remember is I was once out with a friend of mine called Andy, and I just got overcome by a vicious need to take a huge poo. And I was doing that thing, and I said, Andy, I've got to go. And we were quite close to his flat. So I said, can we go back to your flat? And I was doing that kind of robot walk where you're really straight, you're trying to keep your bum cheeks really tight, and you know that in Britain we call it touching cloth. and I was sort of staggering along like this, and I finally got to we got to his flat, and as I was trying to take my trousers down, I literally exploded all over his bathroom. And I stayed in there for about an hour trying to clean it up while he was outside, furious with me, wondering what the hell was going on. So it wasn't a choice that I made. That's the trouble. It just happened.
Yeah.
Oh God! It was
You
so
did
little.
make a choice. You pulled down your pants and you went on his floor.
Yeah.
But the toilet was only a meter away. I just couldn't get to it.
That's what the body does.
Your body,
that's why it's a floor versus pants situation.
Your body's
you
gonna
could have
do.
gone in your pants.
Your body's gonna do what it's gonna do.
Yeah. So what about you? What would you do?
I have mostly always shit in my pants, but now after thanks to this podcast, I would find some place on the floor to go. I did once like go in the woods, like I was on a photo shoot in the woods and I was like, I can't hold it. And so I went behind a tree. There was no toilet in sight and it came out Bristol 7. Like it was just pure evil.
I mean, I've definitely shit my pants. Mostly when I'm doing something like riding a bike. But yeah, after this show, I think I would just try to like suck it up and find a spot to go, just to go outside, because it's just there's nothing worse than having your pants choked full of poop. It's just
yeah, exactly. Especially if you're in the middle of giving a talk at a conference or something. Nobody needs that kind of stuff in their life. Exactly.
You're like, excuse me a minute. I just need a moment, people. Quietly walk off stage. That's funny. Should we get into Let's Get Shitty, or do we just go to the news? Yeah, cool. We have this little segment called Let's Get Shitty, where you get to complain about things. And it doesn't have to be like, it could anything super profound. It could be like, and it does not have to be poop related either. So,
ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for Let's Get Shitty.
Yes. And Stefan, being our guest, if you'd prefer to go first, you don't have to, but if you'd like to, let us know.
Yeah.
What's on your mind?
So the thing that I find really shitty is how people think that farts are rude. Now, you have to fart. Everybody has to fart. You don't have a choice in the matter. I guess, we can control them a little bit. We could hold on to them until we go outside and let rip out there. But why is it that farts are so demonized as something rude or revolting? I mean, even I think it. If my child farts at the table, then I'll instead of thinking that's hilarious, I'll start off thinking, why did you do that there? Then I'll think it's hilarious. Why is that? Why are we so bound into these crazy ideas? Because it's perfectly natural. We yawn in front of people, we sneeze. You're not embarrassed by sneezing. Yeah, we love sneezing. Whereas for some reason farts have been demonized and are seen as something really awful. I think that's wrong, and I'd like to resurrect the fart as a public kind of announcement of how healthy your guts are.
Oh, I like that.
I completely agree. And I feel like with Corona these days, coughing should be the new evil and farting should be the new okay.
I'm with you on that 100%. I mean, coughing in general, but even before all this, is just like the rudest thing you can do in front of someone.
Exactly. You're spreading your germs.
Yeah.
No, you're supposed to cough into your elbow.
But it's exactly, that's the thing. It's like, it's ruined the handshake with people just coughing directly into their hands. It's a mess. But I'm with you on the fart thing.
We'll take hands to hands again, I wonder.
I don't know. I mean, this is going to change.
We're just going to be bowing from here on in.
Or a thumbs up. A thumbs up, just a wave. Yeah. A curtsy, too. Ellen, do you have anything you want to complain about?
Yes, I have a list, but I'm only going to use one thing on the list so I can save things for episodes. But Yelp, you guys have Yelp in the UK, yes? Do you guys have Yelp? It's like a review site for like restaurants and businesses and stuff.
I hate that site.
Yelp literally called me at the beginning of the quarantine wanting me to buy ads for my photography business. And I just laughed at him. I go, do you have any idea what's going on? And I hung up. I was like, I understand you have to do your job, but this is the wrong time to do it. Nobody has money to spend on ads right now. Nobody's going to do a photography anything. I can't see anybody. So no, Yelp, you're wrong. Now here's
a question. Did you give that Yelp customer service person a bad Yelp review?
Yeah, I should.
You should. That'd be hilarious. Oh, I hate Yelp. I really don't like it, but it's just the thing that drives me crazy about Yelp is, especially in the restaurant industry, people that are all of a sudden food critics. that have that didn't go to school for any kind of writing, any kind of like constructive criticism, like nothing critical. It's just it's a mess.
Yeah.
But my Let's Get Shitty is I had my motorcycle parked on the side of the street and someone ran into it again. This has happened twice now. And so now it works. It's just that the handlebars are a little mashed in. My clutch handle is broken off, and it's just like this happened like right when this whole quarantine thing started. So now I have to just wait for a couple more weeks, and then I'm just probably gonna get rid of it. I mean, I do have 2 motorcycles, and I don't need both of them. So I think I'm just getting to the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm done, because living here in New York and like this whole like Jenga like figuring out where to park your car, and it's just like I'm so upset about it that it's almost like laughable at this point. I was just standing in front of it, like just shaking my head, going like, "This is insane." Another thing. So, you know, and I can't be spending a ton of money on repairs right now either. So, but you know,
is this a thing of beauty? Your motorbike? Or
yeah, I mean, the one I have outside, or currently that's my daily running around bike. It's like a newer bike. I got it in 2014. It was brand new, 0 miles on it. You know, it's a big bike. I could take it on the highway. We do trips on it with my wife. I mean, it's my baby. But now I'm just getting to the point where I'm just like, I don't really think I need to have any mode of transportation anymore. It's just soured on me now at this point. I've just gotten to the point where it's more of a burden than it is like fun. And that's you know, and it didn't used to be that way. I used to love riding, and now I'm like, it's just more like a chore. Like I run errands with it, basically. Not like I'm not taking any trips or having any fun with it. So I think I'm just gonna bid adieu to it and just like let it go. I mean, I'm gonna get it repaired and just sell it, and then I'm just done with it. But it's just, I'm like, are you kidding me? So yeah, that was unfortunate. But that's again,
we'll flush those problems.
Oh, I will. I'm gonna flush those problems right down the drain. If I could find my sound effect here, hold on. I am really off my game today, guys. I apologize. Hold on, here we go.
It's okay.
There we go. We have one little segment left, and then we'll get you out of here. It's our news segment. And I'm going to play the bumper for that right now. And here we go. Yes. We like to stay on brand here with all the farts. So this article, I think Ellen sent this to me. It was our government has launched a new U.S. naval ship. It's a huge nuclear carrier. It's able to like actually not refuel for like 25 years apparently, because there's a nuclear reactor on this thing. It is the USS Gerald R. Ford, which is kind of funny because I don't know if you know, Gerald Ford was known back in the 70s as like a complete buffoon. So the fact that there's like a whole ship is this just sort of feeds into that whole thing. And I kind of feel bad for him and his family. But that being said, and again, it's because this is a show about farts and poops, they're having a massive toilet problem on this ship. Like whoever installed the pipes basically made them too narrow. So things aren't flushing. They're clogging up all over the place. And it's costing to flush the entire system out $400,000 a pop to fix this problem.
Talking about flushing your money down the tube. Completely.
It's like a waste of. I mean, it's infuriating. So basically, Bloomberg Magazine, I believe, was reporting about this, and it just came through the government of accountability and like how they're wasting money. But the biggest problem is they can't go in and like actually fix the problem, because to do that, because the way everything is so like, you know, the ship is so complicated that they literally have to take apart the entire ship to like reroute the plumbing, like rip apart the, like just basically like unbuild it. And it's just like, and this thing is just gonna like, now it just lives out, you know, it's just like, we just have to deal with it now, people. This is it. This is our new normal on this ship.
Ugh.
Like
they'll
it's
have
just
to go
such
over the side like they used to in years gone by.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they don't have this thing. Oh my God. I mean, it doesn't talk about the actual like cost of the whole ship, but I mean, Currently, right now, it holds 4,539 sailors and Marines. So, and that's about like 3.15 poops per minute every minute. Someone's taking a dump on that thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. 24 hours a day.
And these are manly, like Navy men dumps.
Oh yeah, they're not. I can't imagine the food they're eating is like really that high quality. So they're probably taking some really disgusting dumps.
Oh.
And
got some sevens in there.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be a mess. So I mean, and
sevens probably don't clog it as much as some of the harder ones.
Oh, maybe they need to make sure they're like number 7.
Put some psyllium husk inside that food, people.
It's a funny, but again, infuriating, like, again, government waste. I mean, they didn't have meetings about this stuff beforehand. They're like, hey guys, maybe make these pipes a little bit bigger. We're going to be out to sea. I mean, you're on a ship for months at a time. You're not coming back home anytime soon. And now you got to deal with this. The poor person who has to clean this out while out on the job they should get a medal of honor for that.
Well, they're getting paid at $400,000.
Well,
they're making money.
Oh my God, it's just crazy. So anyway, with that ridiculous story, Stefan, thank you so much for being on the show.
It's a huge pleasure. I mean, you are clearly bonkers, but I love it.
But it's one bonkers friend to another. You wrote the Bible on farts, honey.
Yeah,
you're in our family.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very good place to be.
Yes, you're pretty world famous in our eyes. But for our listeners here in America, where can we find you?
On Instagram as Gastronaut Lab. As in Gastronaut Laboratory. And the Fartology book is out in the States. I know that the Cathology and Dogology books will be out there at the end of this year as well. And on YouTube as well. But yeah, mostly Instagram. I'm playing a lot with Instagram at the moment and having a lot of fun with that.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much again for being on our show. And thanks for writing the Bible of farts. I mean, Ellen was going crazy when she got that book.
Yeah, you have to listen to that episode of my copious notes. I read this thing like it was my Bible.
Yeah, she was
I'm
all
very,
over.
very proud.
Thank you so much. And stay safe out there.
You.
And we can't wait to see those new books and watch everything that you do.
Exactly. And stay safe yourselves. And thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy pooping, everyone. And toot, toot, toot.
Hey Poopy Podcast is brought to you by Perfect 4 Entertainment, produced by Dave and Ellen, with executive producer Stormy Leather, edited by me, Dave.
For more information, go to heypoopypodcast.com for episodes, merch, and more. Follow us on Instagram at Hey Poopy Podcast and Twitter at Hey Poopy. Theme song by Jordan Perlson. Hey Poopy.